US election over, Donald Trump being elected. Obviously, as we all know, he seemingly won all the swing states in the US. The latest kind of where the election has been in favor of him, Arizona. All governments, or most of the governments in recent history of the 10 leading global powerhouses, economic powerhouses, have seen a change from previous elections to the current elections, with obviously the latest being the US. And the question remains, how is Germany going to move forward? New elections with the fall of the German government seemingly start as well in the next year. What does it mean for financial markets? Well, we observe that currently financial markets seemingly see kind of quite some volatility. Well, first of all, the gold price has started to come lower, which is also something similar we observe currently in the silver market, as silver prices obviously as well start to weaken. And that said, also oil markets see some slight weakness. Technical levels we should discuss and talk about next. What's up and coming for next week in terms of financial markets and the important news releases? Well, we don't have too much looking ahead to next week. What we have are actually consumer prices in the US. They are going to be as expected, potentially 0.3% compared to previous month, not too much as we eye the current figures. Any market motivation in terms of potentially rising figures, and let's see how numbers from the US in particular, inflation numbers as well as economic figures, will turn out in the next couple of trading weeks. But the dollar's impact might depend quite on those figures and on how those numbers might move forward. What we observe currently, and that's looking at the charts. Let me change here the charts towards the MetaTrader. The euro-dollar currency pair obviously weaker, and this impactful week with the election in the US caused the markets to weaken substantially. We're back below, well below the 50 moving average of the monthly chart, below the 50 moving average also on the weekly chart, and it's exactly what could act as a sort of a resistance area moving forward. And the question is, will next levels be broken as well? We can observe here this zone here acts as a next resistance zone, kind of should the market rise somehow. It looks like at the moment at least that downside momentum for the dollar, or say for the currency pair to be precise, euro dollar, potentially slightly weakening here at the euro dollar currency pair confirms. Now back towards the pound, the question remains somehow similar, and what we have eyed before, this recent basic kind of falling price momentum turning towards the recent resistance area right now could cause the market to fall somehow further if the weekly chart won't be able at least to basically kind of start and push above this rising trend line again. So that's the big debate we have here in this market. And back towards the Australian dollar, something similar to be seen. However, the Aussie looks honestly kind of quite nicely supported. Stock markets, positive risk sentiment, equities rising. The Australian dollar can potentially basically start to look again positive. Let's see whether the market's momentum here, depending on how the 50 moving average goes as well, can the market rise somehow further. Then we could see that the upside, the uplift in the Australian dollar might continue. With that, we might as well see that the upside charting pattern, and that's exactly here what we observe from the monthly chart, right? So this month, just a couple of days old, month of November, the market is in sideways pattern. The market had fallen. That after sharply falling prices, we had quite a few times seen prices rising. If even just a little bit, the upside potential might continue, at least should the market not break the recent low prices here. If that is going to be the case, the upside potential looks feasible. Supportive trend lines are kind of quite something nicely here we observe in this market, which is currently what could ride market prices to continue pushing back to the upside here at some point. So Australian dollar, will it rise again in next week's trading is the big question here. If we look at the economic calendar, we got employment data on Thursday this coming week with potentially kind of slightly better figures. If we're looking at those numbers here, we could see that the market momentum kind of really would be somehow positively for the market. Volume change expected here at lower figures. Any rise of this number would obviously cause the market momentum to be kind of quite positive. But the question comes now as well in regards to the Australian dollar. What's the impact in regards to US policies? Will Trump input or will Trump add further retaliation, say, in terms of tariffs? Will Trump impose further tariffs in regards to China to help his old buddy Elon Musk with his Tesla automotive company in the US? Those questions might kind of harm China in a way, first of all, and might harm further the Aussie side as well, which could cause some negativity for the Australian dollar ahead. Moving on further in regards to those numbers. Those figures, by the way, are more or less all it needs kind of in regards to market sentiment for the time being, looking at next week moving forward. So we shall take into consideration now further potential market moves we could see here when focusing on the MetaTrader. The S&P 500 has closed last week kind of quite at higher figures, right? We created a new all-time high. Will markets continue to the upside? At the moment, we are in slight overbought territory. What the S&P 500's 50 moving average, well, it's still way above the 50 moving average, but also the RSI figure show us the upside momentum in the RSI is kind of slightly in overbought territory. However, the question remains whether this market is going to kind of push itself back to the upside, moving on further. Why that? Because first of all, the upside potential seems to be unlimited. Central banks, the Federal Reserve, have started to resume the downside momentum again in interest rates. The Federal Reserve kind of had cut rates again by 25 basis points. Something similar we've seen from the Bank of England, which also reduced rates 25 basis points. So upside potential, upside motivation might be seen somehow moving on further if the basic cheap liquidity supply can continue basically in the near future. And that's one reason why we might see the upside potential here in equities to continue. Plus, looking ahead back towards tech companies here, we see the upside as well in the NASDAQ index is going to continue, at least for now. The upside potential looks kind of quite interesting here moving forward. Any retracements to lower figures might be taken into consideration to basically start and buying into the market again, looking and focusing at any sort of bearish candlestick pattern here for now, which might kind of start to see any sort of pin bar candlestick whatsoever. Beautiful pin bar. The market could kind of start to rise again moving forward, causing the upside potential to continue. So that's in regards to the equity side of things. Let's swipe this one away and move now towards the oil market. Oil prices, they have started this week actually kind of rather in a positive nutshell, right? Trump's election was not overly bad. Obviously, a basic support for the oil and gas industry, both basically turning away from renewable energies could be something interesting here in those regards. However, the week ended rather on a negative motivation here. It looks like rather the downside potential here, the downside candlestick pattern and downside trends would cause oil prices to weaken. There's not too much about it. Look, if Donald Trump wants to end inflation, it's an easy word to basically say and tell the voters for and in the election in the US. But however, looking at candlestick patterns, we can clearly observe the trend pretty much starting to develop to lower price levels, and this might be a reason why the market sentiment here, if the market is able to break the lows as we stated before, the downside potential in oil prices looks feasible. Depends on any potential aggression again from Iran, anything from the Israeli side in terms of geopolitical tensions, which might obviously also call oil prices to run back to lower levels. Silver markets, we observed a kind of quite some downside motivation. The question is right now, will silver really resume its downside potential? The stronger US dollar could be one reason why the market might start to fall further. Economic growth is a bit kind of, weakening in general. Growth is weakening, right? Not the economic development. Weaker growth figures might cause the demand in silver to weaken, causing the downside momentum to be kind of quite interesting here. We are below, and let me eye the markets chatter here right now. We are below the important figures here when looking at it from a trend line perspective, right? Daily chart trading below the daily chart's 50 moving average. On the weekly chart, we are back at lower figures. The recent resistance area here, resistance basically tested, let's include this one as well, could now act as support, but it looks like we are already trading below those figures, and the downside momentum might continue. In regards to silver pricing motivation here, at least we can observe that the downside motivation in silver might weaken, might look at least weaker here. Weekly chart not kind of quite sweet. Looking at it from the monthly chart as well, we have this technical resistance pattern we can observe. We have quite a strong pin bar candlestick pattern, and what it looks like to me now is that the market might be ready to focus on newer falling prices before maybe, let me try to, it looks kind of quite okay, before the market is going to be ready to kind of see another uplift here. This might only happen in a couple of months from now, where let me eye what date it is going to be. Maybe early next year, March, April, second quarter potentially next year. We see potentially maybe silver markets rising if at least the market sentiment will continue to drive the market force back to lower price levels, at least first of all for now. So that's the big question in regards to silver. Looking at gold, we have something similar. Gold prices obviously also started to weaken. We had examined this basically last weekend. Technical pin bar candlestick, uncertainty potentially over with a potential election result. Boom, checkbox ticked. That was exactly what happened, and that's exactly why the gold price weakened. From technical patterns, resistance area forming a strong resistance market, pretty much lowering itself. Downside momentum due to dollar strength, as we examined as well for the silver market. Check, it's happened as well here. And now after the strong rise in market motivation, basically in the recent couple of trading month in the past, we can observe it's simply just a clear path to the downside based on these correctional patterns. Looking at it from also relative strength index, the RSI is in overbought territory. The RSI being extremely high might now push the market motivation to the downside as well, and just let's move out of these overbought territories where the market momentum could weaken first of all. So that's the news for gold, and that's pretty much what certainty brings into the market here as we speak right now. Let's start with Bitcoin, crypto markets. Donald Trump in favor of digital currencies, in favor of a nice token, a nice digital token, which is simply what just drives the crypto markets to the upside. All markets, all observed markets at least. It's also Solana among others, XRP moving higher, and all the markets like Ethereum as well moving to the upside. Looking at the chart here right now, the Bitcoin price is simply able, for now at least, potentially able to really drive itself towards the 80,000 US dollar mark. Who talked about it basically 2 weeks ago that we are nearing 80,000, that level? Well, answer is in yourself. Just scroll back some videos we recorded in the recent couple of trading weeks. Headline, US dollar 80,000 being reached by Bitcoin potentially, and now the market is simply touching that level. We are just at the 79,750 zone. So it seems to be just a matter of time when the market touches the 80K level. Any retracement lower, any downside motivation could be taken into consideration to see and ride the market back up to higher price levels, as the upside potential seems to be the key takeaway we observe here in Bitcoin. Ether, if we start looking at those other markets as well, it does seemingly the same. Daily charts looking extremely positive. The market momentum higher. Weekly charts do the same, basically strong bullish market sentiment. And all those markets have one thing in common. The upside potential here is seemingly not limited. It just seems to go and positively behave that way. Looking at even Litecoin, we observe the market now over the weekend basically had started to appreciate. Looks now like some nice candlestick pattern, even for those trading Litecoin. Weekly chart above the 50 moving average, looking kind of quite sweet and positive. Last but not least, Japanese yen. What's up for the Jappy? Well, we observe the market is basically trading to lower levels and the market momentum is just ready potentially to fight with some retracement, some rejection of those areas. I would be in for downside momentum in the case here. For those markets, downside motivation, we fell back below the recent highs. Dollar Jappy obviously on the back of a stronger US dollar, not able to rise much. Pound Japanese yen seemingly doing something similar. Also the pound Jappy kind of falling slightly similarly to the euro Japanese yen. So all those markets kind of quite interesting and quite interestingly moving to the upside. To sum it up, this upcoming week, consumer prices from the US, we have as well figures from Australia, employment figures, focus on those, how many new jobs had been created, and it's the market sentiment. Who will be part of the new government from Donald Trump in the US. However, they only start early next year. Remember as well, Donald Trump, well, basically a handover of office. Joe Biden and Trump are going to meet up. Barack Obama had congratulated Trump already, which he, remembering that correctly, 4 years back, didn't want to do. Anyways, fake election results whatsoever, which is what he used in his mouth. In the end, moving forward, looking forward, the question might be interesting. Dollar strength going to unleash further potential. Stock markets higher again. Crypto markets to the upside again. Precious metals weakening. Any retracement, any positivity to be seen is the big question mark. Guys, thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to leave your comments below the video. Subscribe for further updates if you like our channel. We look forward to see you guys soon. Take care, everyone. Have a good one. Bye-bye.